You grow up in Osaka's Kamigasaki district, where the air smells like cigarette smoke and rendered fat from yakitori stalls, and where men sleep in cardboard. City's 2 blocks from department stores, selling $400 melons. Your father is a day laborer, not the romantic the kind with cracked hands and a silence that fills every room he enters. He comes home smelling like concrete and defeat, eats whatever your mother made from whatever was left, and sleeps before the sun goes down so he can be at the labor exchange by 4 a.m. You're 9 when you first see a tattooed man. Not the small, tasteful kanji salary workers get now. This is different. This man is at the Sento, the public bathhouse, and from his collar to his wrists, beneath the steam, there is an entire world. A carp ascending a waterfall, waves against a mountain, a dragon coiled across his entire back like it owns him. You stand there with your plastic bucket and your bar of soap, and you cannot move. Tebori, he says, hand-poked, every line placed by a human hand. His Horishi, his tattoo master, worked on him for 11 years. 11 years. You go home and draw on yourself with a ballpoint pen until your mother catches you and cries in that specific quiet way that means she already knows what world her son is falling toward. You're 16 when she dies. Ovarian cancer, which is expensive to treat and free to kill you. You drop out and take whatever work exists in Kamigasaki. You draw constantly, on paper bags, on delivery receipts, birds and water, and old gods with no names yet. You're not angry. Anger requires hope that something should have been different. You're just precise. You see exactly where you stand in the world, at the bottom.
The man who finds you is not dangerous looking. That's the first thing. He comes into the ramen shop where you work the lunch rush, sits at the counter, orders the basic shoyu, and watches you draw on a napkin between orders. His name is Kuroda, 50-something, trim, with the particular stillness of someone who has survived long enough to stop being nervous about anything. His collar is buttoned to the top despite the August heat. He slides your napkin drawing back across the counter and places one finger on the crane. You sketched in 30 seconds. Who taught you the proportions? Nobody. You tell him. He nods like this confirms something. I know a man. He's looking for an apprentice. Real work. Old school. He pauses. Tebori. You know what Kuroda is before he says another word. The stillness. The collar. The way other customers unconsciously left the seats beside him empty without knowing why. He doesn't threaten you. He doesn't promise money. He just leaves an address on a second napkin and pays with exact change. You tell yourself you're just going to look. The most dangerous offers always sound like salvation. The master's name is Horitatsu. He is 64, small, and treats you like a liability he has reluctantly agreed to store. For 8 months, you do not touch a needle. You clean. You mix traditional Nara ink, carbon-based, the kind that ages to a blue-gray that machine ink never achieves. You learn to prepare the tools. The tebori handle, made of wood, needles bound at the tip. You learn 7 distinct needle configurations for 7 distinct line weights. Confusing them is not a mistake. It is a failure of character. After 14 months, he lets you practice on himself. Your lines on his calf, which he examines for a full minute, without expression, and then covers without comment. What you're learning is not just tattooing. You are learning a language. Horitatsu's clients are Yamaguchi Gumi, mid-level Kyodai, and the occasional Wakagashira, who has earned the right to a full bodysuit. The tattoo is not decoration. It is a document. The specific flower placement tells anyone who can read it which kumi a man belongs to, what he has survived, what he has been granted. The placement of the koi, ascending or descending, indicates whether a man served prison time and emerged with his status intact or diminished. You are learning to write in a language most people cannot see. The ceremony happens on a Tuesday in November. A Kyodai named Yasuda, 28, quiet, with the face of a man who was gentle before life, edited him, is receiving his chest piece, the final session of a 3-year project. The full Fudo Myu, deity of righteous fury, spanning his entire torso. Horitatsu works for 40 minutes. Then he steps back and calls you forward. Finish the flame. The flame at Fudo Myu's left shoulder. 30 minutes of work. But you both know what this means. You sit. You pick up the handle. You find the angle Horitatsu established. And you work. When it's done, Yasuda buttons his shirt, pauses, and looks at you directly. One slow nod. The way men in his world confer acknowledgement that means more than applause. You have just placed your mark permanently into a Yakuza lieutenant's skin. Your hands don't shake. That's what you remember later. Your hands don't shake at all. Horitatsu dies at 71. Quietly, in his sleep, the way men who have made peace with everything tend to die. He leaves you the studio, the tools, and a client ledger with no names. Only reference numbers. Word in the Yamaguchi Gumi travels, the way serious information always travels in that world. Slowly, carefully, and only to people who already need to know. Here is what you learn about how the system actually works. A full bodysuit, muniwari, the traditional design, leaving a strip of untattooed skin down the chest to hide the work under a business shirt, takes 3 to 7 years to complete. Sessions run 3 to 4 hours. No machine, never a machine. The needle enters at a specific angle, stretching the skin taut with one hand while the other taps, at exactly the rate of a slow heartbeat. The ink penetrates differently, shallower, more even, heals faster, ages better. In 40 years, a machine tattoo becomes a blur. A tebori tattoo becomes a painting. But the real system is this. You are now the keeper of records. Every kyodai and wakagashira who sits in your chair brings you their history. You can read a man's entire organizational biography by looking at him in a bathhouse. You know things prosecutors would trade careers to learn. Nobody tells you this is dangerous. They don't need to. By 43, you have tattooed 3 wakagashira, 1 kanbu, and a kumicho whose name you do not say aloud. Ever. Even alone. Your waiting list is 4 years. You charge what you charge, which is never discussed in advance and always paid in cash, inside a plain envelope left on the side table. You have never opened an envelope in front of a client. You never will. You live in Namba still, a wall of binders. Documentation that could detonate careers and hierarchies. But here is what power actually feels like. You check the door twice before sleeping. You never take the same route twice. You haven't had a relationship last longer than 6 months in 15 years. Because every woman who gets close enough to matter eventually asks what you do exactly. And there is no answer that doesn't end things. The most powerful men in Western Japan trust you with their skin. You are untouchable and completely alone. Power is a room where no one can reach you. And you slowly realize that includes everyone you ever wanted near. There's a client named Sato, mid-level, unremarkable career, 6 years on a back piece, Fuji in winter, cranes descending through clouds. He brings his daughter once, she's 7. He apologizes, his usual sitter canceled. She sits in the corner with a coloring book while you work on her father's shoulder. Halfway through the session, she places a sheet of paper on the side table next to your tools. She's drawn 2 figures, a tall one covered in elaborate swirling patterns, a small one beside it, both smiling. In careful hiragana underneath, the picture man and me. You keep working, but after they leave, you sit with that drawing for a long time. You have spent 20 years rendering the world's mythology onto human skin. Gods and dragons and the great indifferent forces of nature. And a 7-year-old just saw you more clearly than any of it. You put the drawing in the binder. Next to Sato's reference number, you don't examine why. The National Police Agency has been building a case for 11 years. You learn this not from a warning, from a newspaper. A wakagashira is arrested on a Tuesday morning, and the article mentions, with the casual brutality of journalism, that tattoo records were subpoenaed, that a horishi in Namba had been identified as a source of organizational documentation. They don't name you. Yet, 2 days later, Kuroda, old Kuroda, who brought you a bowl of shoyu and an address 25 years ago, comes to your studio for the first time since that day. He looks at the wall of binders. They'll want those, he says. You ask if they'll come for you specifically. He looks at the window instead of at you. The organization has decided your cooperation would be, he pauses, counterproductive to ongoing matters. This is not a threat. It is a notification. You were never sworn in, never held rank, never carried anything. You were a contractor, an artisan, a man with a needle and a private language. You were, in their accounting, an asset, and assets, when they become liabilities, get reclassified. Kuroda leaves without finishing his tea. You are arrested on a Friday morning. 2 officers. Polite. Your studio is searched for 5 hours. The binders, all 31, are removed in boxes. 25 years of records, gone before noon. At trial, the prosecutor holds up photographs of your work blown up to courtroom scale. The fudomyu on Yasuda's chest. The mountain scene on Sato's back. Your work displayed as evidence of crime. The irony arrives on the 7th day of testimony, when the prosecution's own expert witness, an academic from Kyoto University, describes your work as among the finest examples of the dying tebori art form in contemporary Japan. The finest examples, in a courtroom, photographed from living men's skin. You receive 4 years. You serve 2.5. The studio is gone when you're released. The tools too. Everything reduced to 1 bag. You walk out of Osaka detention house on a Wednesday in March, when the cherry blossoms are just beginning, which would be poetic if it didn't just feel cold. You spent 25 years writing the most honest document you could manage. Skin doesn't lie. It holds everything placed into it until the body itself decides otherwise. You were a historian, a confessor, the only person in those men's lives who spent hours in absolute silence with them, working without agenda. And none of it mattered the way you thought it did. Not because it wasn't real, because you were useful. And when usefulness ends, so does the relationship. The organization, the clients, the law. Everyone wanted something from the needle and the binder. Nobody wanted the man who held them. You sit in Tenneji Park and think about Sato's daughter's drawing, which was in binder 22, which is now in a police evidence box labeled with a case number, The Picture Man and Me. You are ammunition. You told yourself you were an artist, but the world doesn't pay for art. It pays for utility. Dressed in the costume of art, until the bill comes due. Bullets don't choose the target, they just fly. Somewhere in Kamagasaki right now, there is a 16-year-old boy working a lunch rush, drawing cranes on napkins between orders. A man with a buttoned collar just sat down at his counter. He ordered the basic shoyu. He is looking at the drawing. He has not left the address yet. That's a wrap for today. The tebori tradition is real. The Yamaguchi Gumi tattoo documentation system is real. The Boryokuden facilitation laws that have imprisoned artists, accountants, and lawyers who never held a weapon, those are real. And somewhere right now, a door is open between a pachinko parlor and a closed shoe shop. And someone who should keep walking is slowing down. If this one stayed with you, drop a comment below. Subscribe for more. See you in the next one.